the entity that is stalking, all right? This is Southwest Airlines doing so at the same OVITT Family Community Library. This is all evidence of what is stalking. This is not sunlight, first of all. You're dissecting the crime scene. You saw in the previous video where you saw United Airlines coming from behind. Where are they flying over? A housing community. The housing community of the demons that are over here stalking with their demonic children. They're criminals. They're future felons, future prison inmates. They're sex offenders under the age of 18. Gang stalking. Doing so with the government. That's how, again, that's how lawless, that's how depraved, that's how hopeless the demon-possessed youth are. And what you're looking at is the entity that's engaging in this conduct. So I want you to recall what you witnessed not too long ago. All right, this is the perfect example. First of all, this is UPS. And this is the entity that is hovering through the sky space. They're doing the same thing with United Airlines, doing the exact same thing. This is literally out of bounds regarding the airport, regarding what is any sort of takeoff, regarding what's a public nuisance on its face and in substance, regarding what is asinity, while the government is monitoring evidence exposing itself. The government that's humiliated and then replicates that which is asinine because it is in fact humiliated, which is also delusional, psychopathic conduct, okay? You're caught, and so you engage in more of what is idiotic, essentially, because you are humiliated upon being caught. And the consequences are not just people laughing and pointing. The consequences is prison, okay? Mental examinations. But they are nonetheless stalking, doing so with minor kids. College of Laverne University of Law is gang stalking. That's Engineer Light. The entity has the entity that is gang stalking, like you see UPS, and like you just saw, this is the ongoing pattern of conduct. Okay? This is what you're witnessing while they're engaging as though they're feigning a takeoff. This is the thing that I've been describing. You're miles away from the Ontario International Airport. And it's not even a straight shot. The Ontario International Airport is not east of this Ontario City Hall and this senior center and the senior citizen complex, the John Stewart Company and the Wells Fargo. It's not a straight direction east. So they're not coming from the airport. They're not flying east from San Bernardino Airport. They're not flying west from Los Angeles County Airport and then hovering over here. They're not even headed to a destination while they're hovering in the sky space. They're not headed to a destination while they hover over the Ontario City Hall. Those are not planes that are originating from the airport. That's the entity that's engaging what is deviating necessarily. The commercial airline planes have a place where they belong on the property of the airports, but they're not engaging in a takeoff from the airport where they're hovering here. And that's the thing that I've described over and over again. The asinity that UPS just repeated for you is relevant to the very thing that they publish on the internet, and I will show you that. While the entity is putting online regarding that which is not going to happen, there will be no expansion of the Ontario International Airport, and on the face of Google, this is where you're looking at a plane that's taken off in the sky space above the airport, which is common sense, okay? This is common sense. This is something that you know when you've been on a plane. We're not driving miles away off the property of the airport, and that's where a pilot then begins to take off, for example, at the Ontario City Hall. That's not what goes on. The entity engages in what is gang stalking me while you're looking at UPS and you're looking at Southwest Airlines. This is a takeoff, okay? And it's completed in the sky space above the airport where the planes originate off the ground and rise rapidly in elevation and proceed to a destination, not to then be followed by hovering miles away and over what is the Ontario City Hall, where no planes are going to create this public nuisance. And this is what the entity is doing while they're engaging in gang stalking me. This is a psychopath that stops in front of me while they're monitoring on my device. This is what the entity is doing while they are gang stalking, engaging in that pattern of conduct, like what you saw earlier. Let's recall that. What Southwest Airlines is engaging in.
This is P.O.C. Southwest Airlines is engaged in what is targeting me. This is the Melvin family. That's called.
All right, this is the Southwest Airlines that's hovering. You're taking off from the airport. You're taking off, okay? You are rising up in elevation. You're rising up in elevation when you're flying a plane. They're maintaining this elevation throughout the city of Ontario over me. This is an entity that is stalking. This is the U.S. military, by the way. Like I stated before, I'm going to state it again. This was on the face of Google. I opened up my internet. Not only that, never mind this, there will be no expansion. It's going to be shut down. They don't even have the money they stole money from me. That's how they've been improving the city of Ontario as well. This is going to be a real life ghetto. Okay, this is the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they're showing you what a takeoff from an airport looks like in doing so, while they're talking about what is a fantasy, monitoring me and my on my device. There will be no expansion of the Ontario International Airport. That's a gang stalking sex offender, monitoring vagina, targeting with the U.S. military. No, it's not. And moreover, in this fantasy, this is where an entity is engaging what is conducting an actual takeoff. And at 2500 and 2900 Airport Road, the entity is engaging what is stalking in the path, like what you see again, what I'm capturing in this video, where the entity is flying miles away from the airport and then hovering down like you're engaging in a takeoff, which is psychotic. Psychotic. They're hovering over the top of the building.
Removal of the domestic terrorist Paul Leon, the Ontario City Council, that are engaged in what are treason.
The entities engaging in this under the fake sun, more evidence of targeting. Just showing you the asininity regarding what the entities engaged in, and they do so while they are also hostile, while I laugh at them, while I look at content on the internet and I laugh at these homosexuals. The entity then engages in stalking a helicopter and commercial planes, okay? Outside of what's published on the Ontario International website. Meaning it's not pursuant to any published flight that's headed to a destination. Moreover, you're not headed to any destination when you're hovering over the Ontario City Hall. That is not in alignment with the property. You have not taken off from the airport and then you're hunkering down over 4 miles, which is, again, not a straight shoot west. It is actually what is northwest. So you're flying diagonally to break it down practically, and then you're hovering down, flying in a straight line west over the property. This is the entity that's stalking. And this is an entity that never engaged in criminal conduct that was scrutinized before. Scrutinized based on what is science and based on common sense. And this is also what is going to rule in court. There are things in court that you do not have to maintain any controversy, and it is a matter of common sense how a plane is taken off from the property of the airport. Which everyone, that has mostly everyone, except for many of these ghettos that are born in Ontario, and this is where they're going to expire. They're going to be subject to prison from Ontario. That's the only way they're getting out of Ontario. But those that have flown on planes, which I've traveled the world. This is very basic regarding what the entity is doing, clearly stalking. And this is the unfortunate United States military that's engaging in this literally idiotic behavior. Literally idiotic. Okay, and it's because they are mentally ill. Remember, this is exceeding stalking. You wouldn't even be subject to this common sense scrutiny showing how dumb you are if you weren't so psychotic. Because they're exceeding stalking. You already know where I'm at. You're stalking. You're engaging in what is stalking. You have to fly 1,500 planes over me every day because you're monitoring. Because you're demons who are mentally ill. You are inherently inferior. They're also inferior while social media exposes what a real takeoff looks like, okay? And it is occurring over the property of the airport. Any airport where the planes are planted on the ground, and that's where they originate with regard to taking off from the property. And in that sky space, takeoffs are very rapid, and they're completed over the sky space of that airport. And not 4 miles away are you then hovering down like I'm documenting, where you're over 7 Pizza Hut, where you're over in the giant dollar store at G Street in Euclid, where you're over Woodside Senior Apartments, when you're over Fontana, California, flying over me at Arrow and Sierra Avenue. This is the entity that's, again, engaging in idiotic conduct. I'm going to prosecute them. They're dummies. These are the murderers. These are the vagina monitors. And by the way, on Mother's Day, they've given birth to many demons that are gang stalking. The mentally ill population is going to be subject to martial law. There's not going to be an expansion of this terrorist that is the Ontario International Airport. These people are going to prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:22 p.m.